You might have been one of the many folks across America who were holding their breath, I'm sure, on Friday night about 11 p.m. Eastern time as the officials were trying to sort out a call with a ball going back and forth between Virginia Tech and Miami players with their backs against the goal line. And of course, Virginia Tech ruled touchdown, game winner. But let's check the replay. Miami wins the game 38-34. That's why we got Steve Merrill here from Wager Talk to help us sort all this out and all the key games across the nation. Miami goes to 5-0, Steve, with that win that you could probably give us a little bit more insight into what in the world goes on, just in regards to, of course, nobody can control what those officials are going to do and what they'll decide once it goes to replay. But that's just one of those crazy situations that obviously completely swings at least a money line situation in that game. But anyone who had Virginia Tech, like myself, with the 18 points was safe. But just crazy occurrence there in Miami.
Yeah, it would have been a huge financial swing had it involved the point spread. You're exactly right, but that was out of reach, being almost 3 touchdowns. Money line, when you get to a point spread that high, there probably isn't a ton of money line action either, luckily, because it's a controversial call and it took over 10 minutes to do so. You just don't like to see that. That would have been doomsday for Miami, basically. And it would have kind of kept Virginia Tech alive, I guess. I mean, in the ACC, it's kind of Clemson and everybody else. With Florida State getting off to such a terrible start, it just seems like it's up for grabs for anybody to maybe come in second at least and have a chance. But I think Miami's kind of sitting pretty now with the 5-0 start. That would have been a huge ding for them. Let's keep in mind they had 3 turnovers to 1 forced. That had a lot to do with it. They did give up 200 rushing yards, though. And to put that in perspective, they had allowed just about 130 combined rushing yards the 3 previous games total. So, was Virginia Tech really that good running the ball, or did something break for Miami? Cal had 1 breakout game against San Diego State this year, 275 rushing yards, and they've barely had over 100 yards in the other 3 games. So it's a really strange matchup for that reason. As I always do, I look at my database simulation, 10,000 games simulated, and on average, we've got Miami of Florida winning by about 9.5 points in this one. The current line, as you said, is about 10.5. Now, that's not a huge difference, but 10 is a very key number. I'd say there's a 4 to 5% chance that Miami wins by exactly 10 points. So you are paying a premium with Miami of Florida here. And in general, my model normally favors double-digit favorites. So that also tells me this line is a little bit inflated. And I'm also a little surprised it's inflated, Mark, for the reasons you mentioned, that they almost lost outright to Virginia Tech on national TV. So you would have thought maybe that would have taken some of the luster away. You do wonder what that comeback takes out of Miami having to travel now. We've talked a lot about this on other team channels with this new conference realignment. I mean, we're getting some weird road trips that teams are not used to. And Miami of Florida is literally making about the longest trip you can make from the corner of the Southeast, the tip of Florida, all the way out to Berkeley. So I don't think it's a great scheduling spot for them. And their only other 2 road games, they've played 2 road games, Florida and USF, South Florida. So they have not left the state of Florida all season. So as far as I'm concerned, this is their first road game. That's a negative situation in general. And there's a little bit of line value with Cal. Now, I'm not in love with this Cal team because they beat Auburn. Oh, nice win at Auburn as a 12-point dog. Well, they only won by 7 with a 5-0 turnover edge. That's not exactly the buy indicator there from a couple weeks ago. But I do think the situational setup favors Cal. I know Florida State's having a rough season, but that's still a very talented team, I think, overall. And they hung with them last week on the road. Maybe take a shot with Cal as long as this remains 10.5 or higher.
To your point, Steve, get this. Miami has not traveled to the West Coast for a regular season game since the year 2000.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And that was a key game, obviously, that season because Florida State eventually went to the national championship game, even though they lost to Miami. Miami's loss was at Washington in Seattle that year of a Oklahoma-Florida State BCS championship game. You get Steve's plays, of course, at wagertalk.com, wagertalk.com. Major League Baseball playoffs geared up this week, and, of course, the NFL as well. And Steve's Under the Radar selection exclusive right here, the voice of college football, 24-7 against the spread. That's crazy good since week 1 of 2022. That on Patreon, /MarkRogersTV, or as a premium YouTube channel member, just check out the ticker below or watch this. College football is even more exciting with some action on the line. And the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the voice of college football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Let's start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread. I've got a 40-year track record. In fact, in 2023, at $100 played per game, you would have netted over $9,300. And guess what? I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill, our ace in the hole, show stopper from Wager Talk. 6 years with the voice of college football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick, which went 21-5 against the spread the last 2 seasons. I repeat, 21-5 against the spread. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Steve Dace and Matt Zemek. Become a YouTube channel member or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2024 a winner now.